everyone, and we're live. You're tuning into the Cosmic Children Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have a peculiar individual in the studio with me, Ben. You are known as the Smiling Afro online. To kickstart the conversation, who or what is the Smiling Afro, and how would you describe what you do?
Yes, actually, many years ago, 5 years ago, when I started Smiling Afro, I actually asked myself that question many times: who and what is the Smiling Afro? To make sure I know what to say.
Yep. So where have you arrived 5 years later?
Well, okay, so, first things first. Hi guys, my name is Ben. My real name is actually Benjamin Gerard Jose Byrne. Yes,
I can see why you use the Smiling Afro now. Yeah.
So my surname is Byrne. Is actually of Irish origin. I'm Eurasian. Right? I'm a proud Eurasian, and that's where I usually start by explaining to people how come I have an afro. Is because everyone is like, hey, no way, you Chinese boy have afro, you Asian guy, no way. Then I'm like, oh, I'm Eurasian. Okay lah. So makes sense.
So that makes it okay.
Yeah, they're like suddenly, okay, that is fine.
Yep.
Yeah. So but the funny thing is, it's not from my Irish side. So my great-great-grandfather is pure Irish, and he married my great-great-grandmother who was Anglo-Indian, and she had curly hair. And then my great-grandfather married a Dutch-Indonesian lady, who also had curly hair from the Indonesian side. Yep. And then my grandfather married Peranakan. And then my dad, who you can tell he looks very mixed, right? But yet not like, he looks more like Singaporean Peranakan mix. Married my mom, pure Chinese, that's why I look very Chinese, but I somehow kept the curly hair gene for my great-grandmother and my great-grandmother. Yep. And so that's how I got curly hair. Yep.
So during the character select screen, you chose the afro.
I just scroll very far down.
Gotcha. Like preset 15 or something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so funny thing is, I only grew my hair out like, as Singaporeans, like we in secondary school we had to be short hair as guys. But when I went to poly, so I told my mom, say, hey, after polytechnic I have to go to army, right? So I have to shave my head. So why not let me grow my hair out? Just like one time phase in my life, youth, like just long hair and all that, And she was like, yeah, fine, sure, whatever. You save $10 every month anyways, in cutting your hair, right?
Yep.
And so weirdly enough, after a month or so, as my hair grew longer and longer, the longest I've ever had, and I was 17, since I was growing up, right? Longest I've ever had, started in 17, and I said, hey, Mom, how come my hair curls when it's long?
Yeah.
And she was like, your father has that too lah. But we didn't know whether you have or not. But I guess, you have your father's hair. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing, so every week when I see my friends, every weekend we hang out, right? And they're like, Ben, your hair every week is getting clear and clear. Like, what's happening? Are you sleeping with underwear in your head or something? I was like, I don't know, guys. I think just my genes, yeah. And so I kept it for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Was the longest length, right? And yeah, you can imagine throughout those months, everyone was like, what's going on? Yeah. And funnily enough, most of the reactions I got from people were more positive than negative. A lot of, I start to notice slowly every week as I go out, people on the streets are like, oh, boy, you have interesting hair. What, very cool, And people start calling me the Afro guy, or like Ben Afro, the Afro Dude, Afro Ben. Yep. And I kind of stuck, and I kind of like realized my new identity. Like, this is me. It's my natural hair. It is who I am. It's based on my heritage, and I like it. I ran with it, And then army came, and of course I had to cut my hair. But after the army, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna grow it back, because before the army, during my poly days, I kind of like found my new identity. Like, it's me, new, but yet it's me, right? And the short version of why it's called the Smiling Afro is because when I was a young kid growing up, I was a smiling boy. Like
hopefully, yeah.
So my mom always reminded me that, like, to look at my old photos in nursery, in K1, K2, I was the only kid in class who smiled for photos.
Yeah.
And
you were that kid.
Yeah, okay, I was that kid. Yeah, seemingly extremely happy kid.
Yeah.
But during my teenage years, that smile went away. Just angst, teenage angst, and so. What hit me the most was once, I remember I was 15 years old, fresh out of argument with my mother over trivial reasons, right? And I was just throwing temper in my room one day, and she came in, and then she looked at me, she looked at my nursery photo, and she was like, "Hi, where did my smiling boy go?" And she walked out.
Yeah.
That's it,
Yeah.
And I was down there in my angst. I was like, I look at the photo. I was like, oh, damn, my mom's right, man.
The sad music plays.
Yeah, right. It's like the scene in the movie, where I'm like, no, I'm staring at the image of myself, and I'm like, flashback. My mom's right. I shouldn't let all this like teenage excuses, take away my joy and my smiling face and everything. So, and then so that stuck with me for a while.
Yeah.
And then when just before 3 weeks before my 21st birthday, my mom passed away.
Yep.
And so that was a very tough time for me during that year. I think it's 2012. And there was a lot of thinking, a lot of like reflection. And I was like, you know what? I want to make something out of this afro also. Because at the same time, it was like, you know what? This is my new identity. And so I said, okay, I want to have a name. I want to have like a nickname for myself, like a brand name for fun. That time was nothing to do with career, just for fun. And then it hit me, like my mom always said, you grew up as a smiling boy, you should never stop smiling. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to be the Smiling Afro. And that's going to be my nickname. And I immediately changed my Instagram, everything, as a Smiling Afro. And so this was just before I went to army. So after army, I came out, I was like, all right, all channels, this is my so-called brand name, Yeah. And so this is what Smiling Afro represents. Smiling Afro represents just joy. Just me, just your Singaporean, your friendly neighborhood Singaporean guy who just wants to make people smile. That's it. And an acknowledgement to what my mom has always reminded me to be. Smiling boy, spread the smile to others. So that's what the Smiling Afro is actually.
What I loved about that is I asked you such a pointed question and you went to like a 15-minute introduction. Amazing. It's like you have it all prepared with the lineage and everything. It's like everything's rehearsed before. It's amazing.
Yeah, so you can imagine how many times I've been asked this question. Yeah.
Okay, so you brought up the word identity a couple of times. So what I'm curious to know is what is the difference between you taking up this persona and this identity of the Smiling Afro and before? What were you like before then?
Actually, I've always been the same actually. I think there was a gap in my life. So from the time I was a young kid smiling around until about maybe 12 years old, where puberty happened and teenage life happened and all the questions started coming in. I was more an angry kid. For about my 13 to 16 years old. But 17 years old onwards was when I started to realize that, hey, I really like comedy. I really like, Mr. Bean was one of my first inspirations, right? I really like to make people laugh. And I said, hey, I just want to be that person. Never thought it would be the career yet. It's still early, but I just want to, wherever in my life, I just want to make people feel happy. And somehow it just Smiling Afro spawned from just that, and so to answer your question, I've always been more or less this guy.
So what was it about Mr. Bean in particular that you first saw that kind of attracted you to what he was doing? Were you even conscious of what he was doing? Because I believe back in the day, he was doing a lot of skits with the teddy bear and everything, right? So were you conscious, this guy's doing comedy? Or were you just, this guy's making people laugh? It's like very funny.
Right. Yeah. So actually what really hit me as a young boy, and I'm actually amazed that it hit me, is how Mr. Bean could make people laugh without saying a lot. He didn't say much. It was a lot of physical comedy. And this was before I knew about Charlie Chaplin. So and of course the laugh track kind of like, as a young kid, kind of told me, this is supposed to be funny, right? So that hit stuck with me for a long time about how much joy he brought, and I just felt, hey, if I can do what Mr. Bean does to people, it's nice. It's a nice feeling, and So that's what is Mr. Bean, or how Mr. Bean inspired me actually.
So how did perhaps that subconscious acknowledgement of you liking comedy, how did it translate along the years to you, I guess, starting Smiling Afro and using it as a career? Because you said multiple times that it wasn't cognizant that you wanted it to be a career in the first place. What was that journey like?
Wow. I think the first time I realized that I could do this was, I think it was 11 years old. Okay, I remember primary 5, right?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, primary 5. So I'm Catholic, so I went to church and I had catechism, right? So once a week, I'll be in class and I was the joker in class. Like, I'll just make funny comments and people, and it kind of lightened up the class a bit, right? Because usually church can be very boring. And after a while, I realized my teacher was very happy me doing that because she also knows how difficult it is to make the class lively.
Yep.
And she's always looking to me as the comic relief as an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And then she always tell me, hey, you have this glow of yourself, like keep glowing, keep making people smile. It's great, it's the energy. And yeah, so from 11 years old, I realized, okay, let me bring it on to my life, my friends, more to my friends and family or whatever, even and in my personal life. Yeah. And eventually I just did comedy for fun. Like in my church community, I did stand-up comedy, I did theatre. I eventually, when I got my hands on my first camera, I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I make my first funny video? So I was doing all that, and kind of like my skills for fun became into, I used it for my polytechnic. And I was like, wow, I really enjoy making funny stuff. And I realized videos was a medium I could use to make people smile.
Yeah.
And I got very interested in that. So in poly, I went to Nanyang Poly, I did motion graphics. So it was more like a video graphics course.
Yeah.
It was where I kind of like discovered more of my video skills. And so I realized how much I love like a real life video as opposed to graphics. So I quit school and I went to LaSalle to further my film aspirations, right? And the dream was to use my film experience or film career to create more videos to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but it was still then, during my LaSalle days, I was never like, oh, I'm going to be a comedian or anything. It was just, oh, I'm just going to be a director or work in the advertising or film industry and basically help to create stuff.
Yep.
But it was only after I went to London to do my master's in filmmaking. So I had a dream of like working there in advertising because, well, Mr. Bean's English, right? Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the land where I first got all the inspiration from and maybe create a career there in either advertising or filmmaking. But Brexit happened and I couldn't get a job. Yeah, the same year going to school, Brexit was voted in. So
gotcha.
Like, wow.
Yep.
And so nowhere was hiring anymore, foreigners, because they don't know what's going to happen. It's like, is the company going to move or anything? And so I came back home to Singapore disappointed. But I said, you know what? I've always wanted to start this Smiling Afro channel for fun. Like, just make it official. And post comedy content on my own accord. Nobody to say anything or give feedback or, no company to decide how I should do it. I'm just doing it for fun. And then at the same time, I'm going to apply and work in the advertising industry in Singapore and I want to build my career here. Yep. But Smiling Afro is always going to be just like the side thing for fun. Yeah. And so that's when I finally launched it in 2018. 2018. So I came back on 2018 January. I launched it in 2018 February. Yep. So it's exactly 5 years ago. Yeah. And I said, you know what? This is going to tell everyone, hey, guys, I finally got the guts to start my own channel. And all my content is going to be under Smiling Afro. Enjoy. Yeah. Enjoy. But 2 days later, I got a call from my first client. They were like, hey, we've been following you for a while, but we never knew if you were like legit for hire. But now we just saw that you launched your channel. So wondering, are you official? And I was like, of course, shocked, right? Because in my heart, I was like, yeah, there's a dream of like, maybe one day I'll get hired as a Smiling Afro, but for now, let me go work. Yep. Right? Let me just post content for about a year and maybe one day someone will care. Yep. 2 days. So I had to pretend I knew what I was talking about. I was like, yeah, I'm available to discuss, rates and what you have in mind.
So you're smoking through, basically.
Yeah. And then 1 week later, I went for the meeting. And basically, they just told me, hey, we love your character. We want to pay you to create videos for us as yourself. And that was kind of like music to my ears. And so that was my first client, Yahoo actually. Yeah. It was my first client and they kind of helped kickstart the Smiling Afro. Because by then I already had a fun logo, everything, and then I was making videos for them once a week. Yep. And I was getting like traction. People were like, hey, who's this guy? Yeah. Oh, is he working for Yahoo or with Yahoo? What's going on? Yep. And after about, I think 5-6 months later, I realized, hey, I'm getting traction. I really need to decide now what I want to do with this. And so I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to start applying for advertising jobs. Yep. I'm going to start my own company. It's going to be Smiling Afro. And I'm going to tell people, hey, I am available for hire. Yeah. I'm my own self-employed business. Yep. Let's work together and build my brand. Yeah. And that was in 2018. Yeah. And so that's basically how the Smiling Afro, or how far the Smiling Afro has come. That's a brand, right?
So I'm curious to know, have you always been this charismatic and confident in front of the camera? Because there's lots of type of videos where one might not be as confident, because when you put yourself out there in such a fashion, in such a, I would say, bombastic fashion, you tend to attract a fair amount of criticism or a fair amount of just judgment. And it's pretty easy to pass judgment these days. So I'm just curious to know, have you always been this confident and charismatic? If yes, if no, we can move from there.
Yes, I've always been this confident since I was actually 8 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to my parents actually. Funny story. I was a very shy kid, super shy kid. I couldn't even order my own McDonald's as a young kid. I was so shy to talk to people, and so my parents were pretty pissed off with that, right? Because my dad and mom are very confident people, in their own fields, right? And they're like, oh, I'm the eldest son. They're like, how can my eldest son be this pussy? Yeah? Yep. So what happened was there was this Christmas when I was 7 years old, and then in the mall sometimes they'll have Christmas events. They'll have a stage, and then kids they'll be having events for kids, right? So somehow I was walking by, and then my parents and we stood there to watch, right? And then next moment the host was like, okay, we're gonna call for volunteers soon to come on stage. Yep. And then my parents looked at me and they were like, oh, by the way, Ben, when let's say they ask for volunteer, you better volunteer,
Oh dear.
And you better get chosen. If you don't get chosen, you're not going home. And 7-year-old kid like, huh?
Yep.
Mom, what are you doing to me? What the fuck? Right? I was like, holy shit. And so in that panic, right, when they asked for volunteers, I ran up to the front like, me. And he picked me, and then I was walking up, and I was having the adrenaline of like, oh, I want to go home. I was being threatened, but at the same time, like, oh my God, I got stage fright.
Yep.
But I went on stage and I looked out, and I was like, actually, okay lah, not so bad. What am I so frightened for? I was on stage, and then, oh, this is fine. And then the host was making us play games and doing some fun stuff, and I was like, hey, actually, this isn't too bad.
Yep.
And then when I came down stage, my parents were like, see, okay, all right, scared of what? Think you be scared of what? And since then, I think that's where I gained my confidence in terms of like public speaking or like just being out there. And so, I mean, before 17 years old, I was never actually in front of any video camera, right? But throughout all my theatre work and everything and experience, I guess when I came in front of the camera the first time, I was like, yep, whatever, yeah. If you want to let people judge me, I don't care. Yeah, because I know most people, I realized, I think in my teenage years that most people are more afraid to be in front of the camera or in front of crowds than in front of it. So most of them who actually comment or judge are usually the ones who are afraid.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious to know, how has your process for regards to making a video, how has that changed across the years as you've gotten better, as you've gotten, I guess, more confident with regards to the kind of content, the kind of video that you want to put out? How has that changed?
Wow, that's a good question. Has it even changed? I'm just trying to think now. Has it really changed? Because I mean, my skill sets have changed in terms of like, video quality, audio and everything. And even my writing, it's probably as I discover more and more my voice per se, my voice in front of camera, my voice as the Smiling Afro as a comedian, I would say that my skills have become sharpened in terms of I would say I've gotten funnier. I don't know. I feel that probably from 17 years old to now, I've definitely gotten funnier, and I'm more certain of what content I want to do. Like it's like if I don't want to do something, I say no. Last time I think it was harder for me to say no. Like I just do everything, and then if it's not funny, I'll just still post it. But now no, I only do what fuels me, and yeah.
So that begs the question: what type of content do you want to do?
Oh, just comedy actually. My main thing I only want to do funny videos.
Okay.
Yeah, but as the years pass, I realized, I've become more of like a personality too. And people enjoy watching me host or just enjoy, interviewing me like this.
Yeah.
So instead of just comedy videos, I've moved to like maybe hosting videos, or like, it's still more in a comedy sense, but it's like not just a skit, or sketches, which is what I really love. And the bulk of my videos are that. But once in a while, you also see like more like hosting videos or me talking about something and then making a joke about it. Yeah.
Do you try to retain, so with regards to, let's say, constructing a sketch or like hosting something or like doing something for a client, do you try to retain some semblance of similarity with regards to the style and the presentation, or are they all different? Do you have a different voice for each one of them?
So it depends on the gig, right? I guess because of my the fact that Smiling Afro is just a nickname, so it gives me a lot of versatility to
cool.
be many different characters also. But yeah, it's complicated. It's not like a necessary act as a different character all the time. Like I play a different person or whatever. But like people get it, that it's just the Smiling Afro as if you're watching me on stage. I come on stage and it's me, but I play different characters. But you just know it's me. Yeah, it's just somehow my humor. Yeah, so most clients will like that. They're like, hey, we just want the Smiling Afro, just being different people, but yes, there's still a Smiling Afro.
Yep.
Not necessarily, you have to play this character that's 40-year-old man and specifically only grumpy old man, but I'll play a 40-year-old man, but it's like the Smiling Afro as a 40-year-old man, like that kind of like comedy. Yeah.
So I guess everything is still channeled through, I guess, your perspective and what you want to do.
Yes.
How do you refine that personally? What inspires you? How do you continuously take in inspiration and I guess refine it so that it is your own voice? You mentioned voice, which I feel that it's something most creatives will try to find, and most creatives will seek out. Yeah. So how or what helped you in your journey in finding your own voice?
Practice, I'll say. Actually, I have a lot of like comedians that inspire me, like Conan O'Brien, Michael McIntyre, for example. They are louder in life. They're more personalities than just only comedians. And so I'll just watch how they perform and get inspiration from their styles. But I always tell myself that I can basically imitate, but I have to find my own style. Like what is Smiling Afro? And ironically, it's very hard to explain my style as opposed to just watching my videos.
Is it like something intangible?
Yeah, I think so, because like people ask me sometimes, what's my style? And I'm like, it's hard to explain. It's like when you watch the videos, after a while, you see there's something maybe similar there and that you can pick out that you enjoy of my content. And you're like, that's the Smiling Afro style. Yep. Yeah, but to explain in words, it's so hard to explain. It's
gotcha.
Because I think comedy is such a wide subject, right? There's no specific I only do this kind of comedy, like so specific, like I only tell straight face jokes or something. I try to do a lot of different things as long as it makes people laugh and it's actually entertaining. Yeah.
So what I find particularly interesting about comedy, or I think the craft of comedy, it's a two-way thing, because you're the performer and you're the one delivering these jokes and these lines, and you're playing a character, but you are reliant on the audience as well. The audience has to vibe with it, has to laugh with it, and unfortunately, it is subjective. Humor and comedy is subjective.
Yep.
So since you're based in Singapore, I'm curious to know, I've heard this adage a couple of times where people say that Singapore is the place where comedy comes to die. Is this something you agree with? You being a practitioner of the craft, like we're too practical, we're too pragmatic, we're too by the rules, that we are unable to see irony, we're unable to be a bit flexible with our thinking. That's why we don't understand the comedy, or we shun different types of comedy.
Yeah. So I have actually a lot of opinion on that. To say I understand why people say Singapore is where comedy comes to die, right? Because what I've always believed, and is what saying that comedy is tragedy plus time, right? So a lot of places in the world, especially maybe not maybe first world country as Singapore, there's a lot of there may be more suffering or more poor people or whatnot, right? Or people growing up. A lot of comedians, they come from a sad childhood or a troubling childhood, tough childhood, right?
Yep.
And that's where they're able to turn that suffering into comedy. And people laugh at tragedy. Yep. It's something about what we humans do, right? Yep. We just love tragedy, right? Yep. That's why we laugh at our friends falling down. It's just, yeah. So I feel that one of the reasons also is because Singapore, we are quite comfortable in general, most people have housing over their head, right? So yes, the suffering may not be as intense as a lower class trouble here may not be as intense as a lower class trouble, like let's say India or something, right? So there's less tragedy to take experiences from. Yeah, I feel like, and also because we're comfortable, when society is comfortable, and also because we are very policed in certain terms of our thoughts and everything, and what you can say or cannot say, that in the end, more people will be like, oh, should I be laughing at that? Or can you say that? Or is that funny? They're actually enjoying comedy, right?
They will look to the left and the right to see if people are laughing or not, and they join in.
But where I come from, I grew up in like Christian Brothers School, like St. Michael, St. Pat's, everything. So the kind of people I hang out with, the kind of things we laugh at, I think is also very different. The thing about Singapore is I think there's so many different classes and levels of people, and we all laugh at different things. And I'm very inspired by British and American humor. So when I make jokes, I realize most of the people who understand my jokes are also, they kind of grew up English speaking or watch English shows, or they love English humor, and so they kind of understand what I'm saying. And also I tend to get a lot of like Western or foreign fans, because they can relate and they understand my joke, because they say that it's kind of like Western inspired too, like the way my vocab maybe, or the way I express the joke, and because that's how I grew up, right? But I think a lot of Singaporeans also like slapstick. They like the very exaggerated, like if I may say, Jack Neo style comedy, right? The MediaCorp comedy is the very, just like I don't know how to explain it in words, but I assume you've seen a lot of Singaporean comedy also, and it's just very, like, kind of like, it's just in your face. Or it's just like, oh, they'll fall down right in front of you, and like, you fall down, it's like kind of like that kind of humor, right? Which is not my style, right? But a lot of Singaporeans love that. They kind of find joy in that. And because Singapore is already so small, it's so tough to find the right audience for every comedian to find their audience. Yeah, because you'll never find it as like a vast audience. Like, not say, Malaysia, Philippines, or even Southeast Asia, our neighboring countries, they have so many people. So even if you find your niche, it's still like a lot of people. When Singapore, finding a niche is like so little, and amongst that so little is how many actually come out to support you or see you, right? So, but I feel that comedy will still have it still has a place in Singapore. It does. It's just finding the right audience. Yeah. And like example, I love racist jokes. And I'll say I love racist jokes. Because it's a joke. And we as guys growing up in the army, we bonded with friends over racist jokes. But of course, making sure there's a joke, right? Not actually hating on someone else for a different race. And so I feel that finding the right audience to come and say, hey, we can laugh together. Because it's a joke. Yeah, it's harder to find, but we are around. These Singaporeans, they're around somewhere.
It's very interesting you mentioned the army, because that, like, especially if you grew up all your life in Singapore, the army is one of those times where I guess you're forced to be more independent. You're forced to socialize with a group of people that you have no clue who they are. You're forced to go through the shit together, basically. And it's tough. Ultimately, going back to what you said about going through tough times and coping with it. You mentioned about racist jokes. I'm curious to know, how do you personally toe the line between something that's funny and something that's offensive? Is there like a limit that you, I guess, consciously or unconsciously, like, know when to cross it, when not to cross it? Because the idea of intent, it's oftentimes quite shrouded. You can't really know someone's intent ultimately.
Well, I always feel that the moment a comedian's on stage, right, there's a license already to be a joker. And most of the time, jokes come from truth. Jokes come from a place of fact. That's why we laugh. We laugh because it's true, or we laugh because I can relate to it, right? And a lot of racist jokes come from stereotype.
Yes,
not necessarily trying to bring a race down or trying to insult a race, but it comes from stereotype,
like patterns, occurring patterns.
And that's why I give an example. I'm part Chinese, right? So I have a Filipino friend who likes to joke about me eating noodles, and it's not a racist joke to me at all. Like, he jokes about, I'm sorry, got no noodles for you all the time, it's like, then I'm like, I laugh at it because it's like, I love noodles, and I'm Chinese, right? But I know some friends are like, hey, I hate it, we say it, you're very racist. But why is that racist? Did that joke or statement undermine the Chinese culture or Chinese people in any way? No, we Chinese people eat noodles, right? So you're just referencing a stereotype to joke with me that, hey, sorry that my household don't have noodles, don't be upset. It's a joke, right? And so I feel that, as on stage as a comedian, as long as the joke is referencing based on stereotype and not like saying Chinese people stupid love to eat noodles, that's different. That's more like an attacking statement.
Is it the delivery of it?
Yeah,
the delivery. It sounds so different.
Yes, the delivery, right? Like But I get, but in that argument, we can go into a lot of other, we can talk about so many things like, oh, if the comedian seems to be an angry kind of comedian, and it's his way, it's his persona to be angry, and that's why he says it in such a way, but he doesn't mean it.
Yep.
So it's always case by case.
Yep.
But I feel that, like you say, intent, it's not, to me, a comedian on stage, the intent is to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And also to make us think. I always feel comedy is the best place to make the audience think. Because sometimes even when we talk about stereotypes, right? For example, the simple statement as noodles, it makes us think like, hey, yeah, we actually we love noodles. Like actually, if we were to go without noodles for a few days in some like a Filipino friend's house, we only eat rice. Like, I wonder what I think. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, and I think that's why comedy can be used for reflection.
Yep.
Yeah,
like starting difficult conversations.
Yeah, yes. Exactly, I love that. Yeah, starting difficult conversations,
Yep.
especially we Singaporeans. I love to make Singaporeans awkward when we talk about things that people don't like to talk about.
For example,
Yeah, like race, right? Because I say yes, we may be a racial company, a country.
Is it company?
Yeah, company.
Is that
company,
a
man? We talk so much about army already. My company, we are full of. So like we are considered. Compared to many other countries, very good in terms of racial harmony already.
Yep.
But yes, there is still a racism on the streets, and there's individual people being racist.
Yep.
And we always feel we must talk about it. We must talk to our minority friends and say, hey, how are you? Like, what was your latest? Has anyone been racist recently? How do you feel? I want to know because I care. I don't want you just keep it to yourself or only within your community.
Yep.
Everyone as fellow Singaporeans should talk about it. And so sometimes I like to talk about it in like if it's, let's say in a comedy setting, right? Talk about it and watch people like go, you talk about this, don't talk about this, don't talk about it, no, but we talk about it. We laugh about it, but also think, right? Hey, it's true, right? It's still happening, and we need to be aware.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
we can't be, because I think one of the worst things we could do to something like that is just cover our eyes or like bury our heads and not care about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, people say there's two ways to handle it, right? It's either you don't talk about it, and maybe, then there'll be less talk about racism. Or we speak about it upfront, and then so that everyone's aware, yes, and we all aware, yep, it's happening, and
no matter how uncomfortable it might feel. Because I think ultimately speaking something like this when no one is speaking, it does feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yep. But I feel, for example, like people on stage or comedians or whatever, we have that so-called responsibility maybe to bring out this conversation, because I know most people don't dare say.
Yeah.
But so you let the comedians say, and then that's where everyone discuss, right?
Yep. Yeah. So you mentioned something quite interesting, which is it provokes people to think and to think about difficult topics and difficult conversations. What I'm curious to know is, in recent memory, has there been a comedian that did the same to you about something that you might not have been aware of, or you might have been ignorant about, but perhaps a comedian, through just watching them perform, it kind of changed it started to change your perspective on something?
Actually, I would say maybe last year, actually, Bill Burr. Yeah. Right. He's, so I never really cared, or not saying never really cared, but I've, for a long time, feminism and like, female equality and equal pay, for example, right? It's never been, I don't really talk about it much, people, because to me, just like, okay, not my topic, right? Yep. But Bill Burr mentioned something about, the World Cup, the Women's World Cup team. I forgot her name, but the famous the famous player that became very famous after the World Cup. She was an American player, and she had like pink hair, blah blah blah. Yep. So she came out and said, hey, she used basically her platform to say, hey, our women should get equal pay football than men. Yep. And at the point of time, I just heard it on the side, so I was like, I guess, I see her point. But Bill Burr said, hey, it's she makes it about men, she makes it sexist, but it's not, the reason why men are getting paid so much more is because tickets are being sold, people are watching all over the world, in the millions globally. Yep. Not many people are watching women's football, so that's why you cannot get paid as much. Where's the money coming from? Right, yeah. So in the end, it gave me insight. I was amazed to see Bill Burr using his comedic sense to also make people realize, hey, it's not always about, it's not always sexism or not always racism, it's common sense. Yeah. It's logic, and it's not because the federation are like, oh, we are women, so we pay you less because you are a woman. No, it's just the business side. Yep. Yeah. So that's I got inspired by that. Actually, I said, when I eventually do stand-up comedy one day, I do want to bring up all these kind of like topics and share, make fun of it, but also, hey, but this is the truth, right? Yeah.
So with regards to, let's say, doing stand-up, I guess writing comedy, writing jokes. Pardon my ignorance, but do you feel like everything has been done before? And how do you stay fresh? Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, like in our generation now, 2023, right? I would say 95% of jokes have already been done. There's every style you can think possible.
Yeah.
Right, has been done. It's just, especially now in the age of social media, there's so many things people share or so many things shared out there. So there's so many videos already that sometimes I find when I come out, I remember a few times in my life for the past 5 years, I will come up with an idea. I was a great idea, I'll film it, I'll do it. And someone say, hey, someone else has also done it already. But I've never seen it before.
Yep.
Which I also argue, is that plagiarism? Because I've never seen it before.
Yep.
Right? And then there's been actually a lot of discussion online actually among comedians, among creators even. They're saying, hey, we've reached a point where you can't really create something without knowing, without having an inspiration from somewhere else already.
Yeah.
Everything's inspired, and I remember even the case of Ed Sheeran saying, music, we've come so far, Spotify, whatever, YouTube, there's a new songs uploaded every day.
Yeah.
So, but how many times of all the notes we have, the limited notes we have, and the melodies, can we like
the configurations?
How many? You can't already, right? So you can't go on because you're saying people, some artist from song from 1990 was suing him for the almost similar sound. But you hear the music, you can hear it, but it's not exactly the same, but you can hear it. So how can you sue the guy? And same for comedy, right? Like I can make a joke in almost similar way as somebody else, but I'm using different references. And he can come and say, hey, I also use that kind of like template. But I'm like, hey, I mean, but it's a different person saying it, and I'm saying it in my own reference and my own style, and so writing for me, most of my jokes I written is based on personal experience. Like something happened to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make it a skit. Or like my friend talked about something, it's like, oh, that happened to you. Oh, okay, it's gonna be inspiration for a skit. But I know probably somewhere, in this world, somewhere in another country, someone might have experienced the same thing and made it into a skit too. But the only difference is Smiling Afro is doing its own version. Yeah.
I would imagine it's very difficult for you to cognitively tell your brain, hey, I want this as an inspiration, I want that. You're just taking in everything and your brain is just doing it. I like this, I want to turn this into something, I want to turn that into something.
I just want to create. And like example, one of my most viral videos on TikTok, right? I got inspired from a Spanish movie or something, and I just took it and I changed the words to based on my reference of how I would say it, and I did it, and then people were like, hey, I think some other Spanish guy did it, and then someone was like, no, some other German guy also did it a long time ago, and I was like, guys, it's literally a 15-second joke. It's a 15-second joke, and I'm pretty sure someone has done it before, but I'm not saying I stole it. I'm not unhappy if someone else does it after me. To me, it's sharing the joy.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, my face in the video, that's me. It's my content. Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has your role changed throughout the years, from when you started Smiling Afro to now? Has it stayed mostly the same, or has it changed pretty drastically? Because you mentioned you started a company. I would assume with certain types of growth, there comes a point where you can't just handle everything yourself. You have to outsource a little bit of the work. Yeah. How has your role changed?
So when I began, I did everything actually, from the producing, conceptualizing the video, the idea, all the way to filming, acting. So I had to film and act at the same time, and to editing, and now my dream actually was to open, to basically expand my team, full-timers. But thank goodness I didn't do it because pandemic hit. And if I did it, all the overheads I had to cover and the office rental. So I was like, you know what? Blessing these guys. But I still had that dream. But during the pandemic, I kind of like I got into TikTok and I kind of like blew up there. And so 9x16 videos and short videos were the in thing, and it was working for me. So I was like, okay, I'll do more of that. So my direction kind of changed. But right now, so I'm just riding that wave still. I work with a bunch of freelancers, so mostly producers and editors and videographers to take the weight of my work basically. And the fact that I work with freelancers, I'm happier because it's by gig and I don't have to worry about overheads and blah blah blah. So that's where I'm currently at now. Every gig, on a case by case basis, I'll hire the respective freelancers I need. But I still do have that dream of expanding a team so I can do bigger videos, back to longer form videos and creating just skits and sketches, which I really love.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and also in terms of my role, I feel that I guess over the years, the more and more I grow as a brand, I have more responsibility in the industry too. Like people are asking me also, hey, can you do a course and teach young aspiring people, like, or share with them how you do what you do. And I feel, wow, suddenly I'm getting to a stage where it's not just me doing my content, but I have the responsibility to share and give back to younger aspiring people. Yeah.
How does it feel like when someone tells you something like that, oh, are you able to share to people who might be looking up to you, and you have that, I guess, that responsibility when previously in the conversation you just mentioned, I was just doing it, I was just trying it out. Does it feel like you're an imposter sometimes? Do you get that feeling? Right. Yeah.
Wow, it's funny because on the way here, I was thinking about my friend telling me the other day that he had imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And I was talking to myself, literally, on the way here, I was like, hey, I've never had imposter syndrome. Yeah. Okay. And I was like thinking, why? And I remembered because before I started officially in 2018 to say, okay, I'm going to have a channel, I'm going to put all my comments there, I actually meditated for almost a month to like sit on it and say, hey, because when I know when I put myself out there, online videos, there's no turning back.
Yep.
It's going to be on the internet forever.
Yep.
Forever. People can download it, they'll keep it. I will never be able to delete every video in the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I told myself, if I'm going to do this, there cannot be any regret. And I have to go, and it's only forward. And I'm going to be proud of every video I do and stand up for myself, stand up for my brand. They're going to be haters.
Yep.
They're going to be judgmental people, but never let them change who I am. Yep. I told myself that, so I said, okay, I'm going to meditate on that and to make sure I'm ready.
Yep.
And I'll never turn back, and be proud of everything I do and build it from the bottom up. And so that's I realized that's why I never had imposter syndrome, because I appreciated every point in my life where I was. Even in the presence of people who have been doing this longer than me or more successful, bigger, whatever, I'm like, I never felt like, oh, I shouldn't be here. No, I always felt, you know what? I want to be like them. I want to aspire to be like them.
Yeah.
So I've never actually felt that imposter. And when people come up to me and ask me, hey, we really want you to share because we love what you do, people are inspired, I'm all the more like, I'm happy. I'm like, oh, is it good for me to know that I've reached a certain stage in my career or, my brand that people do look up, and it's comforting for me, and I do want to share. I mean, I've always respected my teachers and mentors, and I do always say to myself that, hey, one day I want to be like that, I help inspire.
I have 3 tangents to go on. First one, you mentioned mentor. I'm curious to know, with that meditation and I guess arriving at this particular mindset, was it because of something someone said, something that you saw, or was it all, I guess in a sense, internal? You didn't really, you weren't able to actually conceive of what it was, but you just felt it. Yeah, I'm curious to know that.
Okay. So the reason why it took me so long to start the channel is because I was so afraid of comments and judgment. I hate it. I hate criticism, everything. For a period of time, I don't really deal with it very well.
It seems like an internal tug of war, yeah?
Yeah, very. And that's why it took me so long. Like, I've seen so many people on YouTube, wow, they're, during the beginning days, starting their YouTube channels, I was like, I can do this too, because I have video skills, everything. I love to be in front of camera, but I couldn't find the balls, I was like, oh, if I do it, people are going to say a thing and I cannot take it, because I've seen the comments on other people's channels, right? I'm like, damn, And I was like, so okay, I just make excuses. No, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'll just work in the industry and just have a normal life, you know?
Just be behind the camera,
basically.
Just
behind, And so, ironically, the disappointment of not being able to work in England, London, I kind of channel it, the disappointment to, you know what? I want to be more than just where I am now. I want to conquer my fear of criticism and rejection and whatnot, and judgment. And I'm like, I want to make my channel, but I've decided, okay, how I'm going to conquer this, like a rejection or, criticism, is to take it with a pinch of salt, but also try to read where it comes from. But my mantra is never, ever attend to it. Like, there's always stupid comments, right? But my word is to never reply, because when I reply, I'll go down a rabbit hole. It will never end.
Argue with them and whatever. Yeah.
It will never end. The thing is that most of the time, these people will never suddenly, oh, you're right. It will just never end.
You will dig deeper, yeah.
And nothing's going to come out of it.
Yep.
Right? So of course, for the past 5 years, I can count with one hand that I replied some because I'm probably in a bad mood that day, or maybe there's something really ticked me off. Yeah. But, most 99% of the comment, I never ever reply. I let it be.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm grateful because every comment now is engagement.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So, but it's even more comforting to see sometimes my fans will defend me and they'll go and say, okay, and if you're not happy, just whatever, And yeah, so that's that's why I had to meditate, like told myself, okay, because I'm gonna get hit on by all this criticism, and I'm just gonna stand strong and don't reply.
Yeah.
And just do what I do best.
Yeah. Have you had any mentors that I guess helped you with regards to your journey as a comedian and
Actually, as a comedian, no. I've had mentors like in school and even my boss when I was interning in a production house who kind of pushed me, I would say pushed me in a direction to lead me to where I eventually am now.
How so?
Like example, even for my school, in like La Salle, I wanted to be a director, but my mentors, they all pushed me, hey, you have more skills as a producer, you like to organize, you're very organized, you just like to make sure things are fine.
Yep.
So from being a director, they pushed me to being a producer, and that's where I honed my skills, which
very important to what you're doing
today
now,
because I manage everything, right? My finances and whatever, and managing shoots and everything, and it's because I kind of like they kind of like push me to like, hey, think about producing more, and I'm very grateful for that. And even my boss when I was interning for production house, I would say he kind of showed me the ropes of running a production business, right? Which kind of like gave me all the experience, and he brought me onto client meetings. So I saw how client meetings went. So now I work with my own clients, right? And even so, I was enjoying my internship so much because this was before my uni. I went back to La Salle for my degree actually. Before I went back, I said, hey, I enjoyed this 6-month internship so much. I want to just stay and work full time. And my boss said, no, he will not allow me to because I'm still young. I don't have a degree. Go and study because you will never regret your uni life, meeting new friends, and just being young and just enjoying that part of your life, right?
That's very interesting.
Yeah, he said, no, I'm not going to let you. So I'm going to force you to go back to school, get your degree, have the blast of your time, study. Because you say these connections you make, they are priceless in the future. And I was like, wow, I never thought he would say it to me.
Yeah.
And I immediately just went back to school. I applied back to school. And true enough, because of the experience I had in school, meeting friends, honing my skills, eventually leading to my 1-year degree, master's degree in London, which I had a blast of time, opened my eyes to experiences, eventually coming back to Singapore. And like, because of the disappointment of coming back, Smiling Afro was born officially. Yeah.
So my last tangent is assuming you're not a robot and assuming that you have emotions and they fluctuate. I'm curious to know, has there been periods of running the Smiling Afro and being the Smiling Afro that I guess failure felt imminent? That there is this, oh fuck, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe this will not succeed. Has there been instances like that?
Yep. 2020.
Okay.
When the first lockdown happened. Actually, even before a lockdown, when the pandemic was happening, I got a lot of clients who were like pulling out budgets. Because marketing budget is always the first budget to get pulled, right? So I was losing clients, jobs being cancelled. I was like, oh wait, where's my income going? And I had a retainer client also who like pulled out. Like, sorry, we can't do the long-term relationship anymore, which I rely heavily upon for constant income. And suddenly lockdown happened, and for about 2 to 3 months I had no gigs. And I was being bombarded by third parties also, like, oh, is this sustainable? What are you gonna do with your life? Everything. So that didn't help. But I also had very supportive parties like, don't worry, Ben, you'll make it through this, hold on. And yeah, so that was a very dark period of me, my time, like, hey, I was doing well. I was running forward, and now, like, wow, where's the money ever going to go? I worked so hard for this, I made a lot of plans, and thank goodness I think on the 4th month or third, just at the end of the 3rd month, I received my first client gig. It's like, hey, blah blah blah. Can we work together? It's like, wow, people still are thinking of me. And yeah, so that was when, okay, I told myself, okay, that was a crazy 3 months. It was a very depressing 3-month dark period. but I'm going to use this latest client gig and then climb back up.
Yep.
And adapt to the new environment in the media world, right, social world and like social media world, and see how I can push my business forward.
Yep.
And so end of 2020, beginning of 2021 was a lot of like experimenting and TikTok and whatnot and content, because I used to do like 2 to 3 minutes videos, and now I do from as low as 12 seconds all the way up, right?
Yep.
And and somehow that kind of like it bore fruit.
Yep.
And I'm doing okay now. And I'm happy. I'm just on a going up tangent. Yeah.
I'm curious to know what keeps you grounded in the midst of content creation, running a business, being in front of a camera, talking to people. What keeps you grounded?
Wow. Honestly, just what I do to de-stress is just hanging out with the people who really support me. Yeah, like I'm happy to say I have some family members, relatives, and good friends who they are very, very supportive.
Yep.
Like so I just meet up with them, and they always just like give you encouraging words and always just say, hey, I'm rooting for you, and that kind of like it's like my refresher.
Yep.
It's like that's where my recharge. I'll say no refresher. My recharge is when I'm with my supportive friends.
Yep.
And because I also care about their business and careers, and so we kind of exchange like it's like charging each other up,
Yep.
Yeah, through
it sounds pretty
words.
genuine, yeah.
Yeah, through honest words and over a drink.
Yep.
And so it's those actually I look forward every couple of weeks to those moments with these people in my life, and we're like, hey, how's everyone in our life now? And we share, and we're like, okay, you know what, I'm rooting for you.
Yep.
And yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because what I would imagine, since you initially wanted to grow the business and I guess everything to a point where you can have full-time stuff, but because of COVID and whatever, you had to just do everything yourself. And I can imagine it to be a very lonely experience. Sometimes you have to do everything yourself. You are shooting yourself, you're editing yourself, you're just putting it out into the ether. And I guess looking at comments and people commenting, but it's not a physical interaction. Do you feel like that sometimes?
So the funny thing is that I'm a very social guy, so
I can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love to be around people, because people give me most of my inspirations are from people.
Yeah.
Right. And why I do this is to make people laugh. So I have to be people, right? Yeah. But actually, during my journey, I never really felt lonely, because in the end, although the content creation part, maybe the production part may be lonely, but I know once I release it, many people are going to enjoy it. And that's where that's what I look forward to the most, actually. Yeah. But so actually, so in the past few years, since maybe 2018 and 2020, I never really felt lonely. But now when I work with freelancers, it's nice, right? It's just nice to have someone witness with me as I produce the content. Yeah.
And I guess it's nice to have someone to respond to you when you speak to them. You can curse and swear at the computer you're on, but the computer's not going to say back anything.
And I do like the cameraman or the producer on set, because I do like to ask, so what do you feel? Because sometimes they'll give back, hey, but this is not, remind me, they keep me grounded in a sense, because it's like, hey, but Ben, are you sure this is you? Is this really you? Then I'm like, oh yeah, I can see something else. Yeah. And so it's easier for the external voice than the voice in my head sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in working with different people, and I guess different people, they have different opinions, they have differing perhaps production and artistic ideals. Have you realized what kind of a producer and even like a boss you are? Have you realized that?
Actually, from young, after doing my few internships and growing up in industry in school, I've actually witnessed bosses in the media industry, and I've learned from them, and I know what kind of boss I want to be.
What kind is that?
And so for me, it's just chill. Myself. Like work is work, but always to remember to have fun at work, because this is my whole branding, right? But also know when to like, hey, we gotta do this, gotta be serious, and also one main thing is to never cheat people of money.
Interesting, very interesting. I guess slogan, or not slogan, like a mantra at the end of the day. Never cheat people of money. What do you mean by that?
Because I've seen it so much in the industry, especially in the media industry. So every time, before any gig starts, I will be upfront. Okay, this is the budget. This is what I have. Are you okay with it? Let me know now. When we agree, I will never ask for lower or less or more. So I'm always upfront with money at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, this is what I have. Okay, and I don't want you. If you don't want it, don't take it. But yes, I'm upfront because I've seen many companies not upfront with me. And only later on actually, or like us. And I hated it. What was going on. I said, I don't want people to feel that. I want people to remember me as hey, money is never a problem when we work together. Yeah.
And I guess it's that the idea of this transparency and accountability. Like you're just very upfront about it. It doesn't, I think the amount doesn't really matter as much, but you're just very transparent with the people that you work with.
Yes, I also want the people I work with to know that they can come to me and be upfront. Anything like, hey, this issue, that issue. I just want it to be an open conversation.
Yep.
As opposed to, I can't talk to the boss, I can't talk to the guy who hired, And because I also feel it won't be on brand.
Okay. So you mentioned previously about I guess meeting friends to talk and to converse about interesting thing, about different stuff. And I think you mentioned the word real friends and I guess genuine friends along that lines.
Yep.
I'm curious to know, has the shot to fame and I guess the being like a public figure, has it attracted or has it, I guess, open your eyes to what perilous things fame might bring that you might have expected?
Well, I kinda expected a few things. Like I know there'll be fake people and fake friends who will come and appear out of nowhere, who want to what's the word for it? Hop on the train, right? And I've seen it over the past few years, right? Yep. And some have left, but I can't say I did not expect it, but I've always told myself to be wary and to be aware of who these people are, And but also one thing is I think I've done very well, I would say, is to not let it get to my head, fame. Because I've seen friends change when fame hit them, but I'm happy to say that, every once in a while I do ask my friends, say, hey, you have to let me know if fame or money got to my head. Because when I started even in doing the meditation, as I mentioned, right, I said, remember, never change for worse, or never change for like just being arrogant or being too cool for school kind of attitude. Always be the same guy.
Yep.
It's just the same guy, but more people know who you are. Yeah.
But I would imagine the funny thing about that is if the more popular you get, and I guess the more power you accrue, it's difficult for people to even voice, or I would imagine it's difficult if you don't create the circumstances for people to even give their opinions about you to keep you in check.
Right.
Do you feel something like that?
For my close friends, I will say no.
Okay.
Yeah. The good thing, I guess, why we are close friends, because they can like, hey Ben, I think no, like to come up to me. But say to say then again, they never really actually said to me that, oh, I've gone off track. So it's hard to say whether is it because I have and they just don't want to say it to me, or I really haven't,
Yep.
But yeah, the only thing I've, based on a statement, noticed is that I do have maybe some friends who I've not caught up in a while, and they say, it must be you're so famous so you don't care about me anymore. Or you're so famous no, I cannot ask you anything anymore. Then I'll be like, hey, but you know who I am. I'm not like that. You can message me anytime.
Yep.
So whether a joke or not, I do think about it sometimes like, maybe some people really do feel that the more famous I get, it's like, oh, they cannot talk to me anymore.
Yep.
Or like, oh, this guy is like, oh, he won't answer me I'm nothing,
Yep.
But I always try to remind people out there, if you're listening to this, hey, I'm still the same. Still the same Ben, growing up. The guy who cares, about his friends. Whether or not we've caught up for a long time, right? I've not changed, right? Whether or not famous or not. Yeah.
Why is it important for you to retain this sense of humility?
Because I've been like that since I've known myself. A family being brought up by my mom and dad, the family values, and the values I had just growing up and experiences I had, through my eyes.
Yeah.
And I said, I've always been this guy, and I will bring it into my brand. Yeah.
So, throughout the episode, you mentioned about, I guess, wanting to make people laugh.
Yep.
What I'm curious to know is, what makes you laugh?
Wow. The comedians, I guess, that I respect. like the ones I mentioned, for example, Conan O'Brien, Michael McIntyre, Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Like, their style of comedy makes me laugh. And sometimes just, sitting down with good friends and reminiscing the past and the stupid things we did, over a drink and just thinking about, revisiting the fun times or the times that made us laugh together or stupid, that makes me laugh. Yeah. I find myself actually, the more I'm doing comedy or the older I get, I'm laughing less.
Oh no.
At things I used to laugh when I was very young, like stupid slapstick things, right? I don't laugh anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think doing comedy was so long, I kind of I study comedy so much, I think about comedy so much. When I watch a stand-up comedy show, I'm not just watching a stand-up comedy show, but I'm like, interesting style, interesting choice of words. I felt he could have done it another way. It's a tad bit funny. I've become that, right?
Yep.
Same thing when I started studying film, right? I don't watch films and enjoy the story anymore. I'm thinking about every shot, every dialogue, every text.
What it means and everything. Yeah.
Or like, oh wow, he decided to change the shot this time. Oh, I see why he did it. It's like, So I find myself laughing less and actually thinking more. But I mean, I've actually had friends, tell me, oh, Ben, I just told a joke, you're not laughing. I say, actually, it's funny, but I'm not laughing because I'm thinking. Thinking about it, like, hey, that's interesting. Yeah.
But doesn't that pose a little bit of an existential threat as a craft person? Because you're kind of losing the innocence initially of taking the joke, I guess, as a consumer, like and not thinking so much. And you're not. Yeah. It seems like you kind of peek behind the curtain and you're more aware of how something like that is created. You kind of lose that innocence with regards to just hearing for the laughing and having that a bit of the energy to it.
Well, I guess it's a sacrifice, right? Because I'm doing this full time.
Yeah.
Right, 24/7. So my brain has I think I'm conditioned. I'm used to it already. That's 24/7 just thinking.
Yep.
But I guess you can safely say that when you see me laugh, I must think it's really damn fucking funny. So.
Okay. Right, so it's not all methodical, it's not all thought out.
So it's kind of the point where I just catch myself laughing. They're like, oh yeah, that means it's actually quite funny. That means that's why I'm laughing so much because
Yeah. So for regards to, you mentioned TikTok, you mentioned social media. To what extent do you try to put what you want to do and what you want to say into the stuff that you create? Or do you try to I guess pander to what you would think will be successful on these particular platforms? I'm curious to know the artistic intent that you have and what you find funny versus, I guess, the brand that you've created, the catalog of content. Yeah, because what I find pretty interesting, looking at, let's say, bands and looking at artists, creatives, sometimes style is not that good of a thing because you trap yourself within this confines of, I have to create like this because of my fans, because of my community, my buyers and whatever. And if you deviate, you kind of have the uncertainty, hey, will people like this? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, great question actually, because same thing during the meditation. I told myself, nope.
It's a powerful meditation session.
It was about a month. So I told myself, hey, all my content on my channel is going to be I curate. It's going to be how I see fit, when I want to post it, whenever. I would say, of course, there's still 20% audience thought in it, but 80% is because I find it funny, I like it, I post. Because I want the followers to be people who say, you know what, I like this guy's content, I like his style, I'll follow, and I want to see anything he makes. It's because I enjoy, I don't care whether he'll suit it to me, but I just enjoy anything he makes. And so every content you see me post is, most of the time, it's not to pander to, maybe this audience will like it more. No, it's because I like it. Yeah, and I'm very strict with that. Because I can easily, I guess, do things only for the audience and get a lot of followers, everything, but I feel I will lose my identity. I just become a character who's trying to please our audience as opposed to the character being a brand.
Yeah. Have you felt like that before? And you kind of had to course correct?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt that I posted something only because I had to please anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Only client work, like client work is very specific, right? Yeah. So
So with regards to you mentioning your audience, what do you want your audience to to, I guess, walk away with? Let's say when they view your content or even like a short or like through a reel, what do you want your audience to walk away with? Is it just laughs? Is it just laughter? Yeah.
So when I started also, I said I wanted to make videos that make people think.
Is it that meditation session as well?
Yeah. Okay. I'll try not to mention it because I knew you're going to say meditation again.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I always felt that I don't want to just create mindless stories, mindless content, but I think because I've already been so conditioned to doing and thinking that way that I don't even think about it anymore. But once more people do say to me, hey Ben, I want to let you know that I really enjoy your content, not only because you make us laugh, but because I tend to think after that after your video. I think like, hey, yeah, I've been in that situation before. Like, what would I have done? For example, amongst other questions they ask themselves. And the latest someone told me this was in January actually. Recently had a conversation. Hey Ben, I just want to let you know that, and they're Canadian, right? So that I watch your videos when I'm in Canada, and I laugh and I also think.
Yeah.
And it hit me because I haven't thought about that for a while. But yeah, I've been so used to it where I just make my content and realize that, and people will just automatically just view it and I there's some reflection to be done here, and that's why I think also the beautiful thing about comedy, or my kind of comedy, is it's a lot of situational comedy, it's observational comedy, and it's a lot of things that we all can relate to, and eventually, I want people to take away laughs and also maybe learn something. If possible. Yeah.
And on the tangent with regards to your type of content, it revolves a lot around the Singaporean identity, Singaporean antics, and I guess what you perceive them to be.
Yes.
Was this always the intent? Was this always the vision, or did it meander along the way and you realize, hey, this is quite funny, and I can dig more and can go into it?
Right. So basically, when I started, I felt that I didn't want to just do Singapore content or general content. I felt that as a Singaporean, and I'm a proud Singaporean, I would do Singaporean content, but also as a proud a writer or content creator, I want to do content that's also general, because I feel that I want to share the world. Yeah. Right. So I do a mix of both. Sometimes my content will be either just general comedy or Singapore specific comedy. But of course, I realized in the early days that when it's very Singapore specific or Southeast Asian relatable, it might go viral. It might get big because firstly people are like, hey, this guy Singaporean there's a Chinese face afro, and so it just goes viral, and also people enjoy my writing. And of course, I've been asked many times, hey, why not you just do Singapore content? Since people say, but I said no, that's not my branding, not my decision. I will still do Singaporean content and a mixture of that. Yeah. But we still to say on TikTok, my early Singaporean content on TikTok was the one that got me sudden fame, and helped me basically get my brand out there. Yeah. But like I said, I still do not just only do Singaporean content. I do a mixture. Yeah,
gotcha. So let's dive a little bit deeper on that. Yeah. At this point in time, how would you define this nebulous thing called Singaporean content? Yeah. There's been a lot of conversation about what Singapore is, the Singapore identity, but I'm curious to know, how would you define it?
Singaporean content, I guess, is basically anything related to the culture in this country. Yep. But be it how we talk, speak, walk, the things we say, the things we experience in Singapore, and of course, mostly a lot of Singlish content. Yeah. That's what I feel. Yeah, this Singapore content. Yeah.
Interesting. And I'm curious to know, what do you find amusing about Singapore?
So Singlish has been one of the things that has always amused me.
Why? Because
it's something that we all understand, but we didn't learn Singlish at all. We've never learned Singlish.
That's fair.
And see, if you think Singapore may be a small country, but yeah, it's still very big. Because Singlish originated from already our great-grandparents' time when they were just talking. Yep. But see, imagine kampungs were everywhere, the whole country, north, south, east, west, and the central, right? But not, in those days, not say everybody could meet everybody, but yet somehow everyone seem to have agreed on a certain way to speak and slangs. Somehow. I used to reflect hey, I grew up, growing up up to maybe primary school, it's only just homeschool, go out with family, out homeschool, that's all. But yet everybody will be able to speak in a certain slang together. Or we kind of understand it and we just spoke it. Yep. maybe a bit of help with Under One Roof and a bit of Singapore. But then again, it's like somehow everyone outside spoke somehow the same way, Of course, and even Singlish at many levels, right? There's a very intense English levels, and also there's like the bit of mix of English with Singlish, more English speaking Singlish. So yeah, I've always been amazed with Singlish. That's why I love to make Singlish content, because I feel that really Singlish is something that really represents my identity as a Singaporean.
Yeah.
Because a long time ago, I had like a identity crisis about what being a Singaporean means.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean? And I'm Eurasian. So, imagine during a Racial Harmony Day, I don't have a costume to wear, because Chinese costume, Indian costume, the Malay costume, right?
The others costume.
Yeah. And the others costume, which is jeans and a white shirt. Okay. Which basically everyone wears that before Racial Harmony Day. So I'm like, I'm basically normal day. Yeah. Preset one. Yeah. And I had a identity crisis growing up, because I went for this cultural exchange, and I was like, everyone had their cultural exchange, and I came to Singapore. All right, present yourselves, and my group sang "We Are Singapore," and it's so cheesy, you know. And I got confused, and I went to ask myself, what is it? And I remember talking to some people, and they were like, hey, what kind of language are you speaking? Because I hear English, but in a weird accent, but there's some other words. I said, oh, it's English. And I said, oh, so cool. And that's when it hit me that, hey, yeah, only we speak Singlish. And I remember once traveling, I was very young, to Italy, and then we overheard another bunch of guys speaking, and it was English, and we immediately know, hey, our people. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that really hit me. Like, you know what, that's my identity. Singlish represents who I am. It represents the uniqueness of Singapore. And that's why I love to make content, and I'm very proud of Singlish.
Yeah. What I really like about what you said is like there is this acknowledgement, and I guess the word is ownership. There's this ownership of, I guess, your Singaporean identity, because I believe maybe in the 2010s that there's been this, I guess, this movement or this campaign to actually just stop using Singlish, like promoting like proper English. Did you experience that? And you come to a point and it's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna own it, really, because it's like this idea of ownership is very powerful and very empowering.
Yeah. So I think during that campaign days, I mean, all I remember was seeing on the buses, you know, the speak good English movement, and then they'll put two different sentences, the Singlish one and then the correct version. But I just looked at it and I didn't care. I didn't feel like, because I think I was very young, so it didn't really like affect me. My friends and I were just speaking as long as we understood each other. And but yeah, when I started like really embracing the Singlish language in terms of my content, that's when I started to think about the Speak Good English movement again. And I was like, hey, because and I went to research how has it evolved, and the government stance is different now. So we take pride in English now. We're not going to do that Speak Good English movement anymore. It was a thing of the past. And I got very happy. And I'm like, it's nice that it's acknowledged that we Singaporeans have our own so-called slang language, right? And like I said, like, the speak, I think most of us can code switch, honestly. When it's time to speak good English, we'll speak good English. But most of the time, you're sitting down in the coffee shop with your friends. It's just, hey, how are you? You okay lah? Okay lah, whatever.
So the environment calls for it.
I don't have to be my friends. Hey, how are you doing? How's your day been? I say, no lah. You're like, hey, bro, how's okay or not? Yeah. So, assuming it's not sunshine and roses in Singapore, what do you think Singapore can do better for, I guess, the benefit of comedy? Because I believe there has been, I guess, a lot more shows. There's been a lot more, I guess, is it public acknowledgement, or I guess a lot more spotlight? But do you feel that we are trending in the right direction? Like, is there like a vision you have, or what do you want to see happen more in Singapore? I would like to see more platforms for up and coming comedians to perform in the art scene, especially. I would love if the National Arts Council or any ministry in Singapore related to performing arts or entertainment, come and say more support and like be alright. I mean, and be less like stringent with jokes, I know some depending on where you're performing. I think if it's just an open mic in a random bar, they don't really care. But if you're like performing for a big stage in like Victoria Theatre, whatever, you have to all the jokes has to be created by IMD, for example, or some department guy, right? And to me, it's really stupid for a comedian to present his jokes to a random person before
and get it vetted. Yeah,
it's so stupid.
Yep.
It takes away from the creative process and comedy. I mean, it's like showing your whole movie that you filmed already. And then it's like, oh, okay, we can't do this. It's like, which has been done in Singapore. Let's be honest, right? Let's be honest, yeah. And that takes away on the creative process. I mean, I think, especially if the audience is 18 and above, everyone has the right to their own opinion of the subject topic.
Yeah.
And I think the country is heading in the right direction. I think, I feel I've seen around that even, when there's like, events or like sensitive events that have happened, the government comes and say, you know what, there's also it's under satire. They acknowledge, like even POFMA, honestly, it may sound like they're trying to do a lot, but there have been times where I noticed POFMA is make it very clear that they acknowledge satire. Like you can talk about politics, you can joke about, but as long as it's satire and not too extreme, they accept it. And so I think also the irony is that with that said, the beautiful thing about being creative is being able to, find loopholes,
skirting the line, basically,
because that trains the creative mind also. And like and I think people appreciate the being smart about it, about depending on the joke and whatnot. Right? Yeah.
So it's interesting you mentioned that. I want to know your perspective with regards to creativity, because let's say, being in Singapore, there are a lot of these rules and limitations, and you mentioned having, I guess, these artificial, the maze that you have to navigate. It could spur you to be more creative as compared to, let's say, in America, where you can basically say anything.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
I agree. I think there's certain comedians in this country that they're very intelligent in the way they present a comedy, and they kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? They walk too close to the line, but they never cross it. But because they're near the line, then you're like, oh, I see what you did there. It's very clever.
Yeah, and that's like the genius of it, isn't it?
And I appreciate that part more than anything else, because like that's so, I say, oh, like the intelligence, that comedic intelligence right there. Yeah, the ability to like, so no one can touch me, but I'm just there.
So we talked a lot about the soft skills with regards to comedy, and I guess some of the hard skills as well. I'm curious to know, do you think it is something that can be picked up by everybody? Do you need like an innate talent to be remotely successful? Because it's something so rigorous. There are, like acting, there are certain things that with regards to delivery, with regards to tone, with regards to type of a message, the type of joke. What I'm curious to know, do you think everyone could be a comedian, or someone needs to be talented, or is it like or purely hard work?
So I think in creativity wise, I think all of us need to have at least a small gift before we can be great at something.
Okay.
Like, I feel that way. Like example, an artist, most painters, when they were kids, they could draw already very well without any training. And that's a gift. For me, for the love of God, you can try to teach me how to paint. I could never paint for shit. I could never draw for shit. No matter how much you teach me. I probably can do better than what I do now if you teach me, but I will never be as good as the natural, like, oh wow, I can just draw something now. But growing up, we've always seen those classmates of ours doodling, right?
Spoil market,
yeah, the doodlers, right? Like, how the fuck are you not? Our art fucking lesson is once a week for only 1 hour, and can't teach us shit, but you draw so well. That's a gift right there. And if they do choose to go under, like, oh, we're gonna go study arts, right? They will flourish because they have that gift.
Yep.
So same, I feel, for almost every creative industry, right? I feel that there has to be at least a little bit of that inclination, somehow given, by birth, and then crafted through like young days. You just watch, and you're like, oh, I found my gift, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that even for comedy, I feel that everyone can stand on stage and tell a joke.
Yes.
But to go even more than that, like improv and everything, they have to have that comedic gift in them. So I felt mind bloomed when I was like 11 years old. Somehow I found it. Somehow. And it just, in my own natural state, I study, I'm always thinking about what's the best way to deliver something, or like, why is this joke funny? And even when I joke with friends, right, somehow I know the right moment to say something and the right moment not to say something, and to say in a certain tone. That's why it makes it funny. It just comes very fast to me, and I don't know why. But people ask me why, and I say no. And like growing up, somehow I just picked it up and I understood timing and everything. Yeah,
it's just the way you view things and see the world.
So I just honed basically that I guess skill, and I decided to I'm gonna make it into like a career. So because I know some friends who think they're very funny, but they're not. And no matter how much you try to teach them, they will never be, right? And I guess it's just, that's the beautiful thing about the being creative, I guess. As an artist, right?
Yeah. And to follow up that point, what do people not see? People see you in front of the camera, they see you running this business, and see you being so charismatic. Yeah. I'm curious to know, what do people not see?
Well, I think what people don't see is that actually I'm a thinker. I think a lot. I think a lot about people, like especially people who are less fortunate, and I actually, what they don't see is that whatever I do as a comedian and everything, I actually do have my moments where, I'm always trying to think of how can I help use whatever I have, or in the future get more so I can help the people who are suffering in our society, especially in the closest is Singapore.
Why is that important?
I think, I don't know, as a young kid, I mean, just my experience, I actually I have this, I lost the word I'm looking for, but maybe you can help me out. I had this thing for like caring for the foreign workers. Because I remember as a young kid, so where I stay, there's this mini mart where all the foreign workers will hang out. Yeah. Okay, mostly whether the Bangladeshi workers, the Indian workers, or the Sri Lankan workers, right? Because around my estate, there's houses owned by companies where they house their workers there. Yep. So they're always there. I remember walking past them, and when they see me, they will move out of the way, give me way as a small boy. I was a small boy, and it hit me so much. I'm like, hey, you don't, in my head, it's like, you don't have to do that. I am no bigger a human being than you in society, You don't have to get out of the way. Like, seriously, it's a chair, it's just like the random chairs, and then when they see me, they just stand up, to get out of the way when I walk past. Give me space. I'm like, no, you don't do that. You don't have to do that. And I was like, it really hit me. I'm like, you know what? I have seen also these people getting bullied or taken advantage of, and I'm like, you know what? I personally feel that it will suck if I'm in a situation where I'm being sent overseas, away from my family, friends, my own country, to work in a foreign country, and then being treated like a lower class citizen, and they are building our country. Most of our beautiful buildings here are built by them, maintained by them, but hey, Singapore is best place, but it's best place because of
these people.
Yeah. So what people don't see is that actually I really care about all these things, and I guess it's hard to see my content, right? But yeah,
it's interesting because do you think we talked about everyone could tell a joke on stage, but it feels as though it takes a certain level of empathy to actually be a good comedian, because you kind of have to acknowledge and you have to relate to people's struggles, even your own struggles, to be able to deliver them out to other people so that they can understand. It's like this idea of understanding that it takes empathy to do it. You're not just repeating off something from a script. You have to empathize with the situation, and you're able to deliver it, I guess, with assurance and I guess confidence. Yeah,
I guess that's where the I think certain comedians, you can see when they tell jokes, but you also can see that they observe a lot and they understand a lot, and that's why they can say in a certain way or joke in a certain way, because they just get it, right? As opposed to a comedian or someone else just coming and delivering a joke because it was written that way. Yeah. And I also find myself in because I don't do a lot of improv nowadays, because more of content work, right? But when I was younger doing improv and everything, it's because of all my observational, observing actually. Yep. Yeah, of life. And that's where a lot of my jokes come from. It's like people doing people things. And
you mentioned TikTok, and what I'm curious to know is, I mean, TikTok's a relatively new platform, and they introduced a very interesting format, which runs in, I guess, in conflict with a lot of the formats that we were familiar with. I mean, we came from movies to TVs to, I guess, YouTube had the spur of like video essays and everything. It's really long form. But TikTok kind of introduced like the 15 seconds and the 10 seconds. How do you feel about it? Yeah.
So I was very worried at the beginning.
Worried?
Yeah, because I was like, attention span is already getting shorter and shorter. This was basically encouraging it.
Do you agree with that statement?
I personally still am conscious about attention span, so I think it doesn't affect me, but I can see the younger generation attention span just fading away, and then people are saying the worry is that a lot of people won't be able to watch movies anymore because it's 1.5 hours in the theater and it's like...
I hear... Okay, so the interesting thing, to take a tangent, I think, not movies but songs, I think they have to game the algorithm. They have to game the Spotify algorithm to be on certain playlists so that you get more plays. And I think I've heard from producers where everything is so structured and so meticulous that it is no longer than, let's say, like 3 minutes 20 seconds, and you have the intro has to sound a certain way, the intro has to hit certain key points, and at a certain mark it will go into the bridge, it will go into the verse, it goes into the chorus. Everything is so methodical just to game the algorithm,
right?
Yeah,
which is very sad.
It is.
It's very sad because when you write a song and you write a song based on I need to do this, follow these pointers in order to get the best whatever algorithm, whatever. It's so stupid because you write a song because it's beautiful in its way, in its own right. Yeah. So for me, I love music since young, and I also play music, right? And I studied music when I was younger, so I really appreciate music. So I will listen to a song in its full the first to the end. I'm very particular about it. It's like a habit. I don't like to skip, or if it's last 5 seconds, I still won't skip the song. I don't know. It's just me, right? To appreciate the artist. But I've seen friends who, when you're at a party and then they're the ones with the so-called the DJ of the night, so they get to play music. And I get frustrated when someone keeps changing the song after the first chorus.
Like the first 20 seconds, they don't like it. They swatch. They'll
listen to the song.
Yeah.
They like.
Yeah.
First chorus, the first verse, first chorus, and then say, okay guys, next song, then they change. And I'll get very irritated because it happens for every song, and then I'm like, guys, it feels like we're starting a movie, we don't complete it and we change the movie, and I'm left hanging. And imagine watching a movie that way is so irritating, right? And but I say, no, it gets boring. I say, how can you say a song gets boring? You appreciate a song for its whole, right? It's created with many different parts for a reason. It's like a story. And I realized that it's because they have low attention span because they don't see the artistic side of it. It's just like, I want to, let's listen to song. All right, next song, and it's like, I say, if I want to do that, I'll go to a club and listen to a DJ play. At least when they transit, there's like a flow. There's transition. You're just like abrupt, And I guess that's the artist or the creative side of me that's very frustrated. But so at first I was worried about the attention span thing, but I think now, a few years later, I changed my mind. I think the fact that movies won't die, because movies are movies, like Netflix is still there, Disney Plus, whatever, all the platforms are churning out movies. Even Apple got his hand on it, Amazon. So I think people will still watch and pay attention when they can. I feel that now most of us in society have just adapted to, there is short and long content. It depends on what you want to watch. Done. So I would say 2020, I was so worried about short form content, attention span, no one's going to watch long form anymore. And I think that was true for a while, but everyone slowly went back to long form because people, I think, automatically realized that there's only so much you can say in so short, but if you really want to really grasp something, you have to watch longer form.
I don't have TikTok, but I keep hearing about how, I guess, the idea of the scrolling and how, I guess, it kind of hooks you in with regards to, I guess, what the algorithm kind of thinks that you want to view and everything. So what I'm curious to know is, what type of challenges does, I think, creating content in such a weird format, you have to get from point A to point B with regards to your idea in 15 seconds or like 12 seconds, and you have to be entertaining, and you have to include all these different things. What type of challenges have you personally faced with regards to creating content, like let's say this particular short form content?
Right. So the funny thing is, I think growing up in film school and doing my...
do you feel like you were prepared to create content for TikTok?
I was prepared to create like maybe longer form content, like a few minutes. But funnily enough, because I love advertising, which I found out in film school, right? And the challenge of advertising is always to sell something within a short period of time. And I enjoyed it. Actually, I enjoyed it the most. because I was like, I think it's a skill. If you can tell a story in a short amount of time and get your pointers out, that's beautiful. And I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yep.
And that's why I kind of like moved to advertising, because most advertisements are comedic, right? Because they want to, in a short amount of time, they want to do something that make you laugh, because you tend to remember it when you laugh.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of like had the interest already for a long time. So when I converted to shorter form content, I was actually having fun more than anything else with the challenge. Okay, 15 seconds or 30 seconds. Okay, so how can I shorten and sacrifice? It's all about sacrifice. I sacrifice my script, sacrifice what I need to say. And yeah, I think the biggest challenge I find myself most of the time when I create my own content is when I'm editing, to sacrifice shots. It's like, all right, I really want this, but I have to sacrifice it because it's not necessary. And yeah, and the beginning was harder, but now it's easier. Like, you know what? Yeah, it's all for the better.
Yep.
All for the better. Yeah.
Do you feel the pressure to constantly create, to stay, I guess, on top of the business, on top of your own artistic pursuits, and I guess on top of the algorithm? Because God knows that if you don't post consistently, I think the word is consistently, you will fall behind in terms of, let's say, your stuff getting out there and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the more malicious parts with regards to this invisible hand that we're all like feeding content to. Yeah.
So when I started, I was like, I think back in 2018, the content was like once a week is a lot already. So I only posted once a week, right? And as the years go by, it started getting more and more. And then even now, like I post 5 times a week, right?
Damn.
But the thing is that I think for a period of time last year especially, I was like worried. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to post. If not, I might fall behind. But then I forgot when, but I brought myself back down to earth. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I shouldn't be controlled by the social media companies. I can't let them tell me, oh, if you don't do this, we will not. It's fuck them now. What the fuck? It's my choice when to post. What? It's a free platform. So now I say I post 5 times a week because I have a lot of content that I have like a backlog of that I want to post and slowly to people. But I always tell myself, if I don't feel like posting tomorrow, I won't fucking post it. I'll just not. Whatever. And ironically, the way the algorithm works now is that it used to be chronological, right?
Yes.
It's like you post it, everyone only see your latest. But now it's just organic.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I post today, next few days people will see a new post, but all my past posts will come back randomly because they'll find the people who kind of like that kind of content, and so I'm not so worried anymore. But I feel that as a full-timer doing this, it's like I'm a creator online and I will call myself an entertainer on the media platform. I feel responsible to at least post once a week to entertain people.
Interesting.
Because I want people to get entertained. And people do message me, we always look forward to your stuff, Ben. Thank you for making us laugh. And say, okay, you know what? I'm doing this for you, like for my fans. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you used to do somewhat 2 to 3 minute kind of long form content, and now you have started doing short form content. Is there a particular medium or format you haven't done that you might be interested in?
Wow. Maybe like a talk show.
Interesting.
I mean, okay, my podcast is kind of like a talk show, right? But I do want to do like game shows and everything, like a Running Man and all. I mean, my ultimate aim is to get, you do bigger productions that way as a comedian, Running Man, making people laugh, or like prank shows, But Singapore is very tough to do prank shows because everyone's so sensitive. So it's more like controlled prank shows, like maybe only pranking my friends or famous people because it's controlled, right? But I want to do like, those kind of like out there productions. Yeah.
I've seen pranks. I mean, with regards to TikTok again, I think people have been doing some wild shit just to get to that concept of virality. And oftentimes it goes a bit alright, especially if you do it in public and nobody's in on the joke and you're just invading people's spaces and you're just trying to prank them. I think doing it here might be a little bit difficult.
It's very difficult. So it has to be more controlled, And there's some of the stuff that I haven't done yet, which I'm looking forward to do one day.
Yeah. What about the idea of shooting a film?
Oh, that's always in the cards. Yeah. Always in the cards, but I always tell myself when I'm ready. But who knows, in the near future, I've always wanted to direct my own feature comedy film based in Singapore. Because I always feel that my voice, directing a comedy film, I want people to see. Like I want people to say that Singapore can have a really funny film that our audiences around the world can relate to. Yeah.
Do you have any idea what that might look like?
Well, I have a few ideas, but it's always going to be around a few guys, Singaporean guys, and something stupid happens, and the whole movie is just trying to figure out how to fix it. Yeah.
A little bit hangover, yeah?
Yeah, something like hangover, but it's to showcase Singapore.
Yeah.
And showcase how Singaporean guys handle it, and to also show people that we can be funny.
Yeah.
Singaporeans can be funny. Enough with this, like, oh, Singapore cannot, all this. No, we can be funny. It's just finding the right director and the right actors.
Has there been stigma that Singaporeans can't be funny?
Well, I think it's because there's a stereotype, right? Like, even when I was in London, a lot of the Singaporean people I meet from other schools, the stereotype is that they're very boring and they're very
straight-laced.
Very straight-laced. They just do their own thing. They don't really hang out mix with the foreigners. It's just their own community.
So no drugs lah.
No drugs. And then I go to the school, I go home, then we chill with my friend, we play mahjong, play Dota. Then after we only go out together, go to around the place, drive around. But there's no there's no like, oh, we're gonna mix around, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna laugh, it's just always. Which I wasn't, I was the opposite. I went, I want to meet people around the world and fun and then learn things,
Yep.
So I think that's why majority of these people are like that, right? Like straight-laced. And so when the stereotype would be, oh, Singapore boring, where got funny one.
Interesting. Going back to TikTok and algorithms, there's this concept of virality that could happen to anyone, could happen to content. And I think it's something that I won't say people chase, but people would want for them to happen because you gain engagement, you gain exposure. Is this something that you create consciously, that you will want it to go viral? Because I'm sure that there are certain things that might go viral. Or are you able to predict it, or do you not know?
For a long time already, I told myself I can never decide or predict virality. Sometimes, most of the time, it's just life, right? Most of the times, the videos, I think, wow, this is fucking great, man. I'm fucking funny. I'm gonna put it here. Everyone's gonna fucking love it. And then nothing much. Then the video, there's a few times where the video was like, I got a simple idea. Let me just film it and post because I want to post something today. And this morning I wake up, what the fuck? I literally thought about it for 5 minutes. I said, I'll just do it. I filmed it for 10 minutes. I posted it and it became so big.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh? And then I told myself, you know what? I cannot get stressed out over that. I just want to post. If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, then too bad.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares? All I know is that I have it up there in the content field. It'll be forever in history in my channel. Yeah. And that's all that matters. Yeah. That's all that matters.
It sounds like something you can't chase, and it sounds like there's a lot of balancing, I guess, your own internal emotions. Because naturally, you do something, so you will want that again.
Like I can remember my first ever viral video. There was this euphoria. I was like, hey, people are gonna see who the fuck I am, And then I was like, it didn't happen for a while again. I was like, huh? Oh, so it doesn't affect me anymore, to be honest. Like if it goes viral, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Great. Yeah. But I always tell clients, I actually scold clients, like, hey, I want to make a viral video. What the fuck's a viral video? So you want to make a viral video? Sure. Okay. Sex sells. Conspiracy sells. Is that what you want for your brand? Oh, not really. No, I don't want to get involved in this shit. Then it will never go viral, okay? Because it's branded. Sometimes, even those companies that make viral videos, they don't even know it's fucking going to go viral. They just had a fucking campaign, they made it, and then suddenly it became so popular. Oh, everyone loves this. They're saying, oh, great. Yep. That's it. Yep.
So to dig deeper into content, by what metrics do you judge your own content up? What defines a good video for you? By what metrics do you look at them? Yeah, because some might look at the engagement, some might look at the views.
See, I judge the video before it's posted.
Come again?
I judge the video before I post it. Yeah, so to me, whether or not the views are there, if I feel that it's a great video, to me, it's a great video. Because I was proud of it. Yeah. Like honestly, some of the viral videos is so simple, and I'm like, but it may not be my most favorite, So I never judge it on the views. Yeah. Okay. Because sometimes the views are based on the algorithm picking out like, oh, a lot of people seem to watch it at this timing, like a TikTok, right? It's like, oh, the past 2 hours, a lot of people seem to watch the full video. Because it's all based on how long they stayed, right? Yep. So because they watch the full video, which sometimes is 15 fucking seconds. Yeah. 15 fucking seconds of their life. Of course they will give it, right? Yep. The machine will say, okay, maybe most people like it and we're going to give it. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, it's a fucking good video. It's just that most people stayed.
Yep.
So out of the maybe, let's say 1 million views, maybe 600,000, 700,000 is people who just got pushed the video lah.
Yep.
Because all just,
Yeah.
not necessarily, oh, it's a fantastic video.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
It's interesting that you're cognizant of that, even. That is because if someone were to get a viral video, oftentimes it's easy to just attribute it to the person, the individual, and not because, I guess, of the machinations of, or because of the algorithm promoting to people at this particular time. So it's interesting that you're very cognizant of the fact, and I guess grounded in a sense that if I'm okay with the video, I put it out there, and that is what defines a good video, and not whether the engagement is so much and it compares to the rest. Yeah.
That's why I tell clients like, oh, which videos are good? I say every fucking video on my channel is good. If not, I won't post it.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, some maybe I don't like it as much, but it's good enough for me to post it. Yeah. There's still some level of, it's still me. Yeah. But I'll post it. Yeah.
At that particular point in time, and of course with the benefit of hindsight, if you can redo whatever you might or you might not.
Yeah. I mean, but I would say that every video, there's always as a creative, right, there's always something that I will tell myself can be better. But it's always going to be that way, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's always going to be that way.
Yep.
Yeah. So at the beginning it was worse for me, right? Because it just started, right? But after that, when I realized, hey, it's always going to be this way, and then when I went for talks, I hear famous people or even those successful people say, I would change my successful movie. There's so many things I would change.
Yeah.
But well, it is what it is, right? Yeah.
But there is magic in a bottle, like you at that point in time, having, I guess, your own frame of mind, you saying, I want to publish this, and if you look back a year later, if you could change it, I think you lose that magic, because you were not that person back then as well.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, with regards to fame and virality and content and being a content producer, is the idea of relevancy, is it something that is on your mind? Is it something that you do not care about? Because there's this idea of, it's easy to get your 5 minutes of fame, but I guess sustaining that and even the conversation around how do I sustain that fame or however you grow, I think that's a totally separate conversation. So this idea of being relevant,
funny enough, I've never been concerned about being relevant. I'm like, because in Singapore's eyes, if you talk about very societal level, I'm not relevant because I'm not like a proper, I go to Singapore I study the typical things, and then I should be married by now. My BTO already done.
Is there like a template?
Like a template, So I think that if you think about the majority in Singapore's, especially in the traditional Asian family, this boy, he do well in school, meet a nice girl, same level as him, they go uni, after uni they're still dating, they propose a BTO, blah blah, and then straight away produce children to help run the country, support the country. I really went down the artistic line and everything, and I don't look like a normal Singaporean or a stereotype Singaporean, as you would say.
Yep.
So I was always like, I don't give a fuck about relevancy because I just create my own space in this world, space in this country, right? I am who I am. I don't, it's either you accept that I'm part of society or not, right? Yeah. So I just create content as it is, and no questions for me, or no doubt, oh shit, am I part of this place? Am I gonna belong here for so long or not? It's like yeah.
Fascinating. I guess to end off this conversation, I'm curious to know, what does success look like to you?
Now I've come to a point where I think a lot of people kind of know who I am, and every week, at least once a week, someone will come up to me and say, "Hey, I love your content. I look forward to it. I look forward to it every time, and thank you for making me laugh." To me, that's success. Yeah, there's nothing to do with money. It's just like someone who saw me on the street and hey, I'm gonna say to that guy, thank you for that. Maybe that few minutes or few seconds of laughter, wherever that guy was or that girl was. And which is what I started out to do, right? I just want to make people have maybe a sense of escapism from whatever stress and just have a good laugh, right? And whenever I see people of all different ages, from young kids to older guys and ladies, 60, 70-year-old, hey, that guy, I always laugh at your videos. Hey, you're very funny. I'm very happy I see you, and I'm very happy. That's enough for me. That's success to me. And I think based on my experience, I'm currently successful.
Gotcha. I'm going to take a U-turn back because I just remember a point I really wanted to talk to you about, which is advertising
Yes.
and comedic content.
Mm.
How do you balance the responsibilities of, let's say, when you're doing an advertisement for a particular thing, for a particular place? How do you balance that content while trying to make it funny? Are they in conflict sometimes? Or is it down to whatever that it's negotiated with the clients?
Right.
Yeah, because let's say if you're promoting a place, so it's kind of semi-serious. You kind of want, let's say, to drive something. You want something to happen. You want people to go. You want people to visit. But
Yeah. So I always believe the challenge for me, or I challenge myself, is I can sell anything, any service, product, or whatever. No matter what it is, I want to challenge myself to sell it. So, and I think the beautiful thing is because I already branded myself as it's mostly comedy, comedic content, right?
Yep.
All the clients that come to me, they're already like, all right, we want your style, comedy. Yes, but that's why we come to you, and we are open and we want to excited to hear what you have to say about our product and service and how you're gonna promote it.
Yep. And
of course, I mean, in the end, there's a lot of challenge where always in the end the client was like, no, but there's certain things we have to say, and I always have to be like, okay, but if we say it will take away the fun, and it's going to be very commercial. So it's always that give or take. That's the challenge there. But yeah, where I find balance is always tug of war, right? Tug of war. It really depends on how certain or how assertive the client is to, no, we have to do this part, sorry, Then okay, well, if you really want it there, don't look at me when it's like not as funny as it's supposed to be, right? Yeah.
Does the idea of commerce, the idea of, let's say, someone paying this particular skit as an advertisement, does it ruin the idea or the craft of the comedy of the skit?
Not really,
okay.
Because in the end, this is what pays for the bills, right? And I think a mature person will also understand that, it's a career I have, and there's only so much I can do for a paid skit, right? But like I say, a mature audience will know, it's his challenge to create something, and it's his career. Of course, it's always the 1-2 hoo-ha, sell out, now you're getting paid. Then I'm like, what the fuck? You gonna pay me, man, to have a roof over my head, man? I made you laugh for free already, and then so I use a portfolio to get content, and these stupid people will come and comment just stick to your own stuff, don't do branded stuff, but it's nice to also sometimes hear the commenters, you pay for his fucking bills, you fucker, fucking talk so much. Yeah.
I would love to see you do like a serious documentary. That would be interesting. Like a wildlife documentary.
And the irony is because probably people already know my branding, so if the whole documentary is serious, they'll just laugh because it's the irony, right? The irony.
It's the irony.
Yeah.
So I think to round out the conversation, I'm curious to know, what do you think contributed to your success? Why do you think you're so successful at this particular point? Why do you think people flock to you, people watch your content? What is it about you?
I think I stuck true to my guns. I never changed from what I decided I wanted to be. I like creating my own content and sticking to it and never pleasing anybody. I think that's why slowly, and I mean, it was a slow rise, but I always knew in due time, people will just recognize my genuinity. Right. And they're like, and they appreciate it. They just appreciate me being genuine. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And not someone else. Like not being trying to be someone I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful way to end the conversation. Before we end, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
No, actually, I think we actually covered so much more than I would imagine. Yeah. And it's always therapeutic for me. Because I reminiscent what I am, right? Yeah. So thanks a lot for this. Yeah.
No,
thank you.
Thank you for your time. And I guess thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for the conversation.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode and feel inspired. If you enjoyed what you heard thus far, do give us a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode.